The transport shuttle carrying Ambassador Jiho Kang rattled as it approached the massive council station. Through the viewport he could see the ancient structure floating in the purple glow of the neutron star, Kelvar Prime. The station had orbited this star for thousands of years, long before humans even learned to make fire. It was a reminder of how young humanity was compared to the elder species, who ruled the galaxy. Jiho was 56 years old and had spent the last 23 years as Earth's representative to the Galactic Council. In that time he had watched his hair turn gray and his hope fade. When humanity first joined the Council 73 years ago, everyone on Earth had celebrated. They thought it meant acceptance, equality, and friendship among the stars. They were wrong. The shuttle docked and Jiho stepped into the cold metal corridors of the station. Alien beings of all shapes and sizes moved past him. Some looked like giant insects, others like floating crystals, and still others like walking plants. None of them looked at him. To them, humans were nothing. Less than nothing. Jiho walked toward the council chambers. His assistant, Counselor Minho Choi, was already waiting outside. Minho was young, only 30 years old, and still believed that words could fix everything. He had hope in his eyes that Jiho had lost years ago. "Ambassador, did you read the new decree?" Minho asked quietly. His voice shook a little. "Yes," Jiho said. "I read it 3 times. I still cannot believe it. Decree 7734 had arrived 2 days ago. The Council demanded that Earth dismantle 80% of its defensive fleet. 80%. That would leave humanity almost defenseless. But that was not all. The decree also ordered Earth to surrender 5 of its colony worlds to Council jurisdiction. These colonies were home to nearly 2 billion humans. They were farms, factories, and families. They were the future. "We have to make them understand," Minho said. "If we explain that these colonies are essential for our survival, surely they will listen." Jiho looked at the young counselor and felt pity. Minho still did not understand. The Council did not care about human survival. They had made that clear many times before. The massive doors to the Council chambers opened. Jiho and Minho walked inside. The chamber was enormous, with a high dome ceiling that showed the stars beyond. 12 elevated platforms surrounded a central speaking area. On each platform sat representatives of the elder species. These were the true powers of the galaxy. At the highest platform sat High Arbiter Velcris, leader of the Council. Velcris belonged to a species that looked like massive insects with multiple eyes and clicking mandibles. The Arbiter was ancient, over 600 years old, and had ruled the Council for 3 centuries. "The human speaks," Velcris announced. The voice echoed through the chamber, harsh and cold. "We grant you 2 minutes. 2 minutes." For the future of humanity, they gave 2 minutes. Jiho stepped forward. He had prepared a careful speech about cooperation, mutual benefit, and the principles the Council claimed to uphold. He began to speak. "Honorable Council, Decree 7734 places an impossible burden on humanity. Our colonies are not luxuries. They are necessary for feeding our population and housing our people. If we lose them, millions will suffer. Our fleet is already small. If we reduce it further, we cannot defend ourselves from pirates and raiders. I respectfully request that the Council reconsider this decree." Silence filled the chamber. Then, one by one, the elder species began to make sounds. It took Jiho a moment to realize they were laughing. They were laughing at him. High Arbiter Velcris raised one of its many legs, and the laughter stopped. The Arbiter leaned forward, its multiple eyes focused on Jiho. "Your species has no right to make requests," Velcris said. "You are probationary members. You have no vote. You have no voice. You exist here because we allow it. The decree is final. You will comply, or you will be removed from the Council and face sanctions." Minho stepped forward suddenly, his face red with anger. Jiho tried to stop him, but the young counselor was already speaking. "This violates Protocol 17 of the Council Charter. You cannot force a species to give up its means of defense. You cannot take inhabited worlds without consent. These are your own laws." Velcris's eyes narrowed. With a gesture, the Arbiter cut off Minho's communication link. The young man's voice died in his throat as his translator was remotely disabled. "Laws apply to members," Velcris said coldly, "not to evolutionary accidents. Your species crawled out of mud while we sailed between stars. You are children playing at civilization. Perhaps in another 1,000 years you might be worthy of consideration. Until then you will obey or you will be crushed." The Arbiter continued, and each word felt like a knife. You call yourselves survivors, but you are nothing but animals who learned to use tools. You wage war on each other over pieces of dirt. You poison your own world. You are violent, primitive, and dangerous. The only reason we tolerate your presence is to contain you. These colonies you value so much are not being taken for our benefit. We are placing them under proper supervision before you destroy them, just as you are destroying your home planet. Velcris leaned back. The decree is generous. We could have demanded far more. Perhaps we should demand more. You have 1 Earth month to comply. This audience is over. The doors opened behind them. Guards appeared, making it clear they were to leave. Jiho put a hand on Minho's shoulder and let him out. The young counselor was shaking with rage and frustration. Back on the shuttle, Minho finally got his voice back. He was nearly shouting. How can they do this? How can they treat us like we are nothing? We have rights. We have dignity. Jiho sat in silence for a long moment. He looked out at the stars and remembered when he first came to this station 23 years ago. He had been young like Minho then, full of hope, full of dreams about humanity's place among the stars. They can do this because we let them, Jiho said quietly. For 73 years we have bowed our heads. We have accepted every insult, every restriction, every humiliation. We thought if we were patient, if we were good, they would eventually accept us. We were wrong. The shuttle began its journey back to Earth. Jiho opened a secure communication line to Earth's High Command. Admiral Taehyun Lee appeared on the screen. The admiral was a hard man, scarred from old battles, with eyes that had seen too much war. Ambassador, the admiral said. What is the council response? They rejected our appeal, Jiho said. His voice was steady now, cold and clear. They called us evolutionary accidents. They said we are best suited for servitude. They have given us 1 month to comply with Decree 7734. Admiral Taehyun did not change his expression. He had expected this. Then we proceed with Protocol Omega. Yes, Jiho said. Convene the High Command. I will arrive on Earth in 18 hours. It is time. Minho looked between them, confused. Time for what? Jiho turned to face the young counselor. In that moment, Minho saw something in the ambassador's eyes that he had never seen before. Not resignation, not sadness, something else entirely. Something dangerous. Time to stop asking for respect, Jiho said. And time to take it. The shuttle accelerated toward home, leaving the council station behind. Neither of them looked back. There was no point. When they returned, nothing would be the same. The universe was about to learn what happened when you pushed humanity too far. The elder species thought they knew about human violence from Earth's history of wars. They were about to discover they knew nothing at all. The war room was buried 2 miles beneath the surface of the moon, protected by layers of rock and advanced shielding. This was where Earth's leaders made the decisions that would shape the future of humanity. The room was large but felt crowded. Holographic displays covered every wall, showing star maps, fleet positions, and tactical data. In the center, a massive table projected a 3-dimensional map of the galaxy. Ambassador Jiho Kang stood at the head of the table. Around him sat the most powerful people in human space. Admiral Taehyun Lee commanded the Earth Defense Fleet. General Johan Huang led the ground forces. Dr. Hana Yoon ran the Secret Research Division. And there were others, representatives from the colonies, intelligence chiefs, and political leaders. They had all seen the recording of what happened at the council. They had all heard Velcris call humanity evolutionary accidents. They had all read Decree 7734. Now they were here to decide how to respond. Jiho spoke first. For 73 years we have tried peace. We have followed their rules. We have accepted their insults. We believed that patience would earn us respect. He paused, looking at each person in the room. We were wrong. The council does not respect patience. They see it as weakness. They will never accept us as equals unless we force them to. A woman near the back raised her hand. She was Minister Hiren Ko, representing the civilian government. Her face was pale. Ambassador, are you proposing war? War with the entire Galactic Council? They have fleets that number in the thousands. They control half the galaxy. We are one species. Admiral Taehyun stood. His uniform was covered in medals from decades of service. Let me be clear, Minister. We are already at war. We have been at war since the moment we joined the Council. The only difference is that we have not been fighting back. He gestured to the star map. Every restriction they place on us, every colony they take, every insult they deliver, these are acts of aggression. We have just been too polite to call them what they are. The minister looked unconvinced. But how can we possibly win? Their technology is more advanced. Their numbers are greater. This is suicide. Dr. Hana Yoon spoke for the first time. She was young for her position, only 42, but she was brilliant. Her black hair was pulled back in a tight bun, and her eyes were sharp behind her glasses. We can win, she said simply, because they think we cannot. She touched a control on her wrist and the star map disappeared. In its place appeared technical diagrams, weapon schematics, and test footage. For 20 years we have been preparing for this moment. Since the Council first began restricting our development, we knew this day might come. We have been building weapons in secret. Weapons they do not expect. Weapons they cannot defend against. The room watched as the footage played. It showed a missile striking an energy shield and passing through as if the shield did not exist. It showed an electromagnetic pulse disabling an entire fleet in seconds. It showed tiny machines invisible to the eye, consuming a battleship from the inside out. Dr. Hana continued. The Council believes we are primitive. They believe their shields and their armor make them invulnerable. They are wrong. Our quantum phase missiles can bypass any shield they have. Our EMP weapons can shut down their systems before they can react. And our nanite swarms can destroy ships without firing a shot. Captain Yuna Park, commander of Earth's flagship, leaned forward. She was younger than most of the officers in the room, only 38. But she had earned her position through skill and courage. What about their numbers? Even with these weapons, we cannot fight the entire Council at once. Admiral Taehyun smiled, but it was not a happy smile. We do not need to fight everyone. We need to break their will. The Council is not united. They are 12 different species with different goals and different fears. If we strike hard enough, fast enough, and in the right places, we can make them question everything. We can make them afraid. He pulled up a new map showing key Council installations. Their primary shipyard at Theldara, their intelligence hub at Corvin Station, their military command center orbiting Helix 3. If we hit all of these at once, they will panic. They will not know where we will strike next. And while they scramble to defend everything, they will defend nothing well. General Johan added his voice. And while the Council is focused on space battles, we liberate our colonies. My troops are ready. We have been training for years for exactly this scenario. Every colony has resistance cells waiting for our signal. We hit fast, we hit hard, and we make sure every human knows that Earth has not abandoned them. Min-ho Choi, who had been silent until now, finally spoke. His voice was uncertain. Is there no other way? Can we not use this strength to negotiate? Show them we have these weapons and demand better treatment? Jiho looked at the young counselor with sympathy. Minyo, they had their chance to negotiate. They have had 73 years of chances. They responded by calling us animals and demanding we give up our children. Words will not work anymore. They need to learn that humanity is not weak, and the only language they understand now is force. A vote was called. One by one, the leaders of humanity made their choice. Some voted with enthusiasm. Others voted with reluctance. But in the end, the decision was unanimous. Humanity would go to war. Admiral Taehyun began issuing orders immediately. Fleet mobilization began across the solar system. Ships that had been in dock for maintenance suddenly came to life. Weapons that had been hidden in cargo holds were loaded onto missiles. Soldiers who had trained in secret were activated and briefed. Commander Doyen Shin received his orders in a secure facility on Mars. He led the Ghost Protocol team, the most elite special operations unit in human space. His team consisted of 12 soldiers, each one trained for impossible missions. They had never failed an operation. Their new mission was their most important yet. They would infiltrate the Council's intelligence hub and steal everything. Every secret, every weakness, every piece of information that could give humanity an advantage. Doyen read the mission brief twice. Then he called his team together. They were young, but they were ready. Each one of them had lost someone to the Council's cruelty. A family member relocated, a friend disappeared, a dream crushed. They had all been waiting for this moment. All right, Doyen said, this is it. This is what we trained for. We are going to hit them where it hurts most. We are going to take everything they have, and we are going to use it to win this war. No mistakes, no mercy. Are you ready? The team responded as one. Ready, sir. Captain Yuna stood on the bridge of the EDS Indomitable, Earth's most powerful warship. The ship was massive, bristling with weapons both conventional and experimental. Around her, the rest of the fleet was assembling. Destroyers, cruisers, carriers, and support vessels. It was not the largest fleet in the galaxy. But it was determined. And it was angry. Her executive officer approached. "All ships report ready, Captain. We await your orders." Una looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Council was preparing for what they thought would be a simple enforcement action. They expected humanity to comply or be crushed. They had no idea what was coming. "Set course for the jump point," she said. "Full fleet." Silent running. "We launched the operation in 72 hours. The officer saluted and began relaying orders. Back in the war room, Jiho watched as pieces moved into position on the strategic map. Everything was proceeding according to plan. In 3 days, 12 human strike forces would hit 12 Council targets simultaneously. It would be the largest coordinated military action humanity had ever attempted. Minho approached him quietly. "Ambassador, I want to believe this is the right choice. But I am afraid of what this will cost us, afraid of how many will die." Jiho put a hand on the young man's shoulder. "I am afraid too, Minho. Any person who is not afraid before war is a fool. But I am more afraid of what will happen if we do nothing. The Council will not stop with 5 colonies. They will take more and more until we have nothing left. They will break us piece by piece until humanity is just a memory. We have to fight, not because we want to, but because they have left us no other choice." The countdown began. 72 hours until the first strike. Across human space, soldiers checked their weapons. Engineers made final adjustments to experimental technology. Pilots ran through combat simulations one last time. And ordinary people who did not yet know that war was coming went about their lives. Dr. Hana stood in her laboratory, looking at her creations. The weapons she had designed would kill thousands, maybe millions. She had never wanted to be a creator of death. But the Council had forced this choice. They had called humanity primitive and violent. Perhaps they were right. But humanity was also determined. And when determination met desperation, miracles happened. The final preparations were complete. The fleets were in position. The strike teams were ready. The weapons were armed. In 72 hours, the galaxy would change forever. The Council thought they knew what humans were capable of. They thought 73 years of submission had made humanity weak. They were about to learn the most dangerous lesson in history. You can push someone only so far before they push back. And when humans pushed back, worlds trembled. The Council chambers looked exactly as they had 3 days ago. The same high ceiling showing the stars. The same 12 elevated platforms. The same ancient beings who believed they controlled the galaxy. They sat in their places, confident and comfortable. They expected Ambassador Jiho Kang to return and beg. They expected him to plead for more time. They expected submission. They were about to be disappointed. Jiho walked through the massive doors alone. This time Minho had stayed on Earth. This time there would be no negotiations. This time Jiho had only one purpose: to deliver a message. As he entered, the various alien species turned their attention to him. Some made sounds that might have been laughter. Others simply stared with whatever they used for eyes. None of them showed concern. Why would they? Humanity was weak. Humanity was nothing. High Arbiter Velcris leaned forward on the highest platform. "The human returns. We assume you have come to report your compliance with Decree 7734. Have your ships been dismantled? Have your colonies prepared for transfer?" Jiho walked to the center of the chamber. He did not bow. He did not lower his head. He stood straight and looked directly at the Arbiter. "No," he said simply. The word echoed in the chamber. Several aliens made sounds of surprise. The Arbiter's mandibles clicked together in what might have been anger. "No?" Velcris repeated. "You dare defy a council decree? You dare refuse a direct order?" "Yes," Jiho said, "I dare. Because I am done asking for permission to exist. I am done begging for basic rights. I am done pretending that your council represents justice or fairness. You have given me no choice but to speak truth." The chamber erupted in noise. Aliens shouted in their various languages. Some demanded his immediate arrest. Others called for sanctions against Earth. The Arbiter raised a limb for silence, and gradually the noise died down. "You speak of truth?" Velcris said. "The truth is that you are a primitive species that barely understands space travel. The truth is that you are violent, destructive, and dangerous. The truth is that we have shown remarkable patience with your presence. And now you repay that patience with defiance? Jiho felt his anger rising, but he kept his voice steady. Let me tell you about truth, Arbiter. For 73 years, humanity came to this council in peace. We offered cooperation. We offered friendship. We offered loyalty. We asked only for fairness and respect. And what did you give us in return? He paused, looking at each of the 12 platforms. You gave us chains. You restricted our development. You limited our growth. You taxed our resources and gave nothing back. You called us children, animals, accidents. You treated us not as equals but as servants. And when we still tried to cooperate, you demanded we give up our very survival. This is meaningless, Velcris interrupted. Your words change nothing. You will comply or face the consequences. No, Jiho said again, louder this time. We will not comply. We will not surrender our colonies. We will not dismantle our fleet. We will not bow to you ever again. You called us primitive. You called us weak. You were wrong. Now some of the aliens were laughing openly. The idea that humanity could resist the council was absurd to them. Impossible. Ridiculous. Velcris made a dismissive gesture. This display of false courage is pathetic. You have no military capable of challenging us. You have no allies who will support you. You have nothing but empty threats. Guards, remove this creature and prepare sanctions against Earth. They will learn their place. The guards began to move toward Jiho, but he did not step back. Instead, he raised his voice so that it filled every corner of the chamber. You speak of military capability. You speak of challenges. Let me make something very clear. This is not a negotiation. This is not a plea. This is a declaration. You have left us no choice. The time for peace has ended. The time for war has arrived. The laughter died. The chamber fell silent. Every eye, every sensor, every form of perception was focused on the human standing alone in the center of the room. Jiho continued, his voice like steel. You thought you knew humans. You studied our history. You saw our wars. You thought that made you understand us. But you missed the most important lesson. Humanity does not start wars lightly. But when we are pushed too far, when our survival is threatened, when our children are in danger, we become something you cannot imagine. We become unstoppable. Empty words, Velcris said, but there was uncertainty in the voice now. Are they? Jiho asked. Then let me give you facts. Your primary shipyard at Theldara is under attack as I speak. Your intelligence hub at Corvin Station is being infiltrated. Your military command center at Helix 3 is about to face the full might of Earth's fleet. And these are just the beginning. For a moment, no one moved. Then alarms began to sound. Red lights flashed across the displays. Communication channels erupted with urgent messages. The reports came flooding in. Human ships detected at Theldara. Explosions reported. Heavy damage. Corvin Station reporting breach. Systems compromised. Helix 3 under attack. Multiple enemy contacts. The chamber descended into chaos. Aliens shouted orders. Some demanded explanations. Others called for immediate military response. The Arbiter stood, all its limbs gesturing frantically. Impossible! Velcris shrieked. How could you dare? How could you possibly think you can win? Jiho smiled, and it was not a kind smile. We do not need to win every battle. We only need to prove that you cannot break us. We only need to show the galaxy that the Great Council can bleed. And once they see that, everything changes. Arrest him, Velcris commanded. Kill him if necessary. The guards rushed forward. But Jiho had planned for this. He touched a device on his wrist, and a bright light surrounded him. It was a transport beacon, highly illegal within council space. But Jiho did not care about their rules anymore. As his body began to shimmer and fade, he delivered his final words. You called us evolutionary accidents. You said we were best suited for servitude. You tried to take our future. Now you will learn what it means to face humanity at war. You wanted to contain us. You wanted to control us. You failed. And when the dust settles, when the fires die, you will understand one simple truth. You should have left us alone. The light flared and Jiho vanished. The guards grabbed at empty air. The Arbiter screamed orders that no one could hear over the chaos. The council chamber, which had stood as a symbol of order for thousands of years, had become a scene of panic. Jiho materialized in the transport bay of the EDS Indomitable. Captain Yuna was waiting for him with a full honor guard. The ship was already accelerating away from the council station, shields at maximum, weapons armed. Welcome back, Ambassador, Yuna said. That was one hell of a speech, it needed to be said, Jiho replied. Are the other strikes proceeding as planned? All targets engaged. Early reports suggest complete tactical surprise. The Council had no idea we were capable of coordinated strikes on this scale. Jiho nodded. Then let us make sure they never underestimate humanity again. Take us to the rally point. We have a war to win. The Indomitable jumped to faster than light speed, leaving the Council station behind. On that station, alarms continued to blare. The Arbiter was issuing orders to mobilize the full military might of the Council. Emergency sessions were being called. The galaxy was being told that humanity had committed an act of unprecedented aggression. But across human space, a different message was spreading. From Earth to the furthest colony, people learned that their leaders had finally stood up, that they had finally said no, that they had finally fought back. In homes and factories, in ships and stations, humans heard the news and felt something they had not felt in 73 years. Pride. The war had begun. There would be blood. There would be loss. There would be moments when victory seemed impossible, but humanity had made its choice. They would rather die fighting than live in chains. And as every soldier, sailor, and citizen prepared for what was to come, they remembered Ambassador Jiho's words. The time for war has arrived, and they were ready. The attack on Theldara shipyard was like nothing the Council had ever experienced. Their sensors detected the human fleet at the last possible moment. By then, it was too late. Captain Una Park stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, watching the battle unfold. Her fleet of 30 ships faced off against 3 Council battle groups, nearly 200 vessels. The numbers should have made this impossible, but the Council did not know what was coming. Fire quantum phase missiles, she ordered. All tubes, the missiles launched. The Council ships raised their shields, confident in their defenses. Those shields had protected them for centuries. They had stopped every weapon known to galactic civilization, but they had never encountered quantum phase technology. The missiles hit their targets, passing through the shields as if they were not there. The Council ships exploded from within. In less than 2 minutes, 15 major warships were destroyed. The remaining Council vessels scattered in confusion. They did not expect that, her executive officer said, unable to hide his excitement. No, Una replied, but they will learn quickly. Deploy the nanite swarms on the shipyard itself. Make sure they cannot build replacements. Tiny canisters launched toward the massive orbital construction facility. When they burst open, trillions of microscopic machines spread out like a cloud. The nanites were programmed with one purpose: consume and multiply. They began eating through the shipyard's hull, its power systems, its construction bays. Within an hour, the most advanced shipbuilding facility in that sector of space was nothing but debris. At Corvin Station, Commander Doyen Shin and his Ghost Protocol team had already completed their mission. They had infiltrated the intelligence hub using stolen credentials and advanced cloaking technology. The Council's security systems never detected them. By the time the alarms went off, Doyen's team had copied every database, every file, every secret the Council possessed. Package secured, Doyen reported over the secure channel. Extracting now. As they left, they activated delayed explosives throughout the station. The Council would spend months trying to figure out what information had been stolen and what had been destroyed. In the confusion, humanity would gain a crucial advantage. The attack on Helix 3 was perhaps the most brutal. Admiral Taehyun Lee personally commanded that strike force. He had waited his entire career for this moment. The Council Military Command Center was heavily defended, surrounded by weapon platforms and patrol fleets. But the Admiral had brought something special. Activate EMP weapons, he commanded. Maximum range. All frequencies. The electromagnetic pulse swept out in a sphere, invisible but devastating. Every electronic system it touched simply stopped working. Ship engines died. Weapons went offline. Communication systems failed. Life support began to fail. In an instant, the entire defensive network around Helix 3 became useless metal floating in space. The human ships moved in unopposed. They destroyed the command center with conventional weapons. It was not elegant, but it was effective. The Council's ability to coordinate their military response had been crippled in one stroke. But the greatest victories came not in space, but on the ground. General Johann Huang led the liberation of the human colonies. His forces moved with speed and precision, hitting 4 colonies simultaneously. On the colony world of New Sol, the Council Occupation Force never knew what hit them. Resistance cells that had been hiding for years suddenly activated. They sabotaged communication towers, destroyed supply depots, and marked targets for the incoming fleet. When General Johann's troops landed, they found the colonists already fighting. The Council soldiers were trained for traditional warfare. They expected frontal assaults and clear battle lines. Instead, they faced guerrilla tactics, ambushes, and traps. The humans melted into the civilian population, struck from unexpected angles, and disappeared before reinforcements could arrive. It was warfare the elder species did not understand. Within a week, New Sol was free. The Council garrison had either surrendered or fled. The colonists celebrated in the streets, waving earth flags and singing old songs about home. General Johann watched the celebrations and felt a mix of pride and sadness. Pride in what they had accomplished. Sadness for those who had not lived to see this day. In space, a new hero was emerging. Lieutenant Nari Song was a fighter pilot, flying the newest model of human interceptor. She was young, only 24, but she flew like she had been born in a cockpit. During the defense of the colony at Haven's Rest, she single-handedly held off an entire enemy squadron. The Council ships were bigger, more heavily armed, and supposedly superior in every way. But Nari was faster, more creative, and absolutely fearless. She weaved through their formations, fired from impossible angles, and used the debris field as cover. One by one, the enemy fighters fell. When reinforcements finally arrived, they found Nari still flying, her ship damaged but functional, and 20 enemy fighters destroyed. The recording of her combat was shared across human space. She became a symbol of what one determined human could accomplish. Recruitment centers were flooded with young people who wanted to be like her. Factories worked overtime to build more fighters. The war was giving humanity something it had lacked for decades: hope. But the Council was not surrendering. After the initial shock, they began to organize a counteroffensive. They gathered their fleets. They called in allies. They prepared to crush humanity once and for all. The Battle of Orion's Gate was the first major engagement where the Council fought back with full force. They brought 300 ships. They had studied the initial battles and developed tactics to counter human weapons. They thought they were ready. They were wrong. The humans had learned too. They adapted their strategies. They used deception, false retreats, and coordinated strikes. When the Council expected quantum missiles, they used conventional weapons. When the Council prepared for EMP attacks, the humans struck with kinetic bombardment. Every battle taught humanity something new, and they learned faster than their enemies expected. Captain Yuna commanded the human fleet at Orion's Gate. She saw the enemy numbers and knew this would be the hardest fight yet. But she also knew her crew was ready. "All ships, this is the Indomitable," she broadcast. "The enemy thinks they have us outnumbered. They think their experience gives them an advantage. They are about to learn that numbers mean nothing when you are fighting for your home, for your families, for your freedom. Today we show them what humanity is made of." Attack! The battle lasted for 6 hours. Ships exploded. Lives were lost. But in the end, the human fleet won. The Council forces retreated, leaving behind their wounded and their pride. It was a turning point. The Council could no longer claim invincibility. Ambassador Jiho continued his own war on the diplomatic front. He broadcast messages across the galaxy, speaking to the oppressed species under Council rule. He told them about humanity's fight. He showed them that resistance was possible. He asked them to rise up. 3 minor species answered his call. The Kelrani, who had been conquered centuries ago. The Thos, who had been reduced to servants. The Vormi, whose home world had been strip-mined for resources. They saw humanity's war and decided to fight for their own freedom. The Council suddenly faced rebellions on multiple fronts. Their empire, which had seemed so stable, began to crack. The elder species panicked. They had ruled for so long that they had forgotten what real war looked like. They had grown soft, and now they were paying the price. 6 months into the war, High Arbiter Velcris called for a ceasefire. The Council offered to negotiate. They suggested they could discuss a compromise. They implied that perhaps humanity deserved better treatment. Jiho rejected the offer immediately. "No negotiation," he said. "No compromise. You had 73 years to negotiate. Now you have war. We will accept only one outcome: full and equal membership in a reformed council, or complete independence from your authority. Choose." The Arbiter refused both options. The war continued. Another year passed. The Council kept losing. Not every battle, but enough to matter. Their territory shrank. Their allies questioned their leadership. Their people began to wonder if the war was worth the cost. Meanwhile, humanity grew stronger. Every victory brought more supporters. Every month, Earth's factories produced more ships, more weapons, more soldiers. Dr. Hana Yoon continued to innovate. She developed new weapons, better shields, faster engines. The Council's technology, which had been stagnant for centuries, could not keep up with human ingenuity. War had always driven human advancement. Now that terrible gift was being used to its fullest. General Johan liberated all the human colonies, every single one, and then he kept going, freeing the worlds of those species who had joined humanity's cause. His reputation spread. The aliens called him the Liberator. The Council called him a terrorist. He did not care what they called him. He just kept fighting. Lieutenant Nari, now promoted to captain, formed her own squadron of elite pilots. They called themselves the Ghost Riders. They struck from nowhere, destroyed their targets, and vanished before the enemy could respond. The Council put a bounty on her head. She wore it like a badge of honor. 2 years after that first attack, the war reached its final stage. Half the Council's empire had collapsed. Their member species were abandoning them. The Council chambers looked very different now. The damage from the war was visible everywhere. Scorched walls, broken displays, cracked platforms. The station itself had been attacked 3 times during the conflict. It had survived, but barely. Ambassador Jiho Kang walked through the same doors he had walked through so many times before. But this time everything had changed. This time he was not coming to plead or negotiate. This time he was coming to reshape the galaxy. The 12 elder species were still there, or what was left of them. Some had been replaced by new representatives after the old ones died in the war. Some sat in chains, prisoners of their own failure. And at the highest platform, where High Arbiter Velcris had once ruled, sat Velcris still. But the proud Arbiter was different now, humbled, defeated, broken. The war had lasted 2 years. 2 years of brutal fighting, 2 years of losses on both sides, 2 years of the galaxy tearing itself apart. In the end, humanity had won. Not because they were stronger, not because they had better technology, but because they refused to give up. Because they fought for something worth dying for. Because when pushed to the edge, humans did not break. They became steel. Jiho stood in the center of the chamber. Around him were representatives from dozens of species. Not just humans. The Kelrani, the Thos, the Vormi, and others who had joined the fight for freedom. They all looked to him now. He had become more than an ambassador. He had become a symbol of resistance. A leader for a new age. The Council is dissolved, Jiho announced. His voice echoed in the damaged chamber. The old order is over. What rises in its place will be different. It will be fair. It will be just. And it will never again allow one species to dominate another. You cannot do this, one of the elder representatives protested weakly. We have ruled for thousands of years. Yes, Jiho said. And look where that rule led. To oppression. To slavery. To the suffering of billions. Your time is over. But I am not here for revenge. I am here to build something better. He pulled up a holographic display showing a new charter, the Galactic Assembly Charter. It was based on principles humanity had learned through centuries of struggle: equality, democracy, justice. Every species would have an equal vote, regardless of their age or power. Every world would have the right to self-determination. Every being would have basic rights that could not be taken away. This is the new foundation, Jiho said. All species are invited to join. Those who agree to these principles will be welcome. Those who cannot accept equality and justice are free to leave and govern themselves. But know this: if you try to rebuild the old system of oppression, humanity will stop you. We did not fight this war to exchange one tyrant for another. We fought for freedom, and we will defend it. Velcris spoke for the first time. The once mighty Arbiter's voice was quiet and defeated. What happens to us? To those who led the old council? Jiho looked at the ancient being. Part of him wanted revenge, wanted to see Velcris punished for every insult, every cruelty, every life lost. But that was not the kind of leader humanity needed him to be. That was not the kind of galaxy he wanted to build. You will face justice, Jiho said, but not vengeance. You will be tried for your crimes. Those found guilty will be punished. But we will not become like you. We will show mercy where possible. We will rebuild rather than destroy, because that is what separates us from the old council. We believe in redemption. Captain Unipark, now promoted to Grand Admiral, oversaw the integration of the various fleets. The Council's remaining military forces were being absorbed into a new galactic defense force. It was a difficult task. Former enemies had to learn to work together. Trust had to be built, but slowly. It was happening. Una stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, watching as ships from a dozen different species trained together. They were learning human tactics, human strategies, but they were also teaching humans things, different perspectives, different approaches. The result was something stronger than any single species could create alone. Her executive officer approached. Admiral, we are receiving requests from 17 more species asking to join the assembly. They want protection. They want to be part of the new order. Good, Una said. Send them the charter. If they agree to the terms, welcome them. But make it clear, we are not conquerors. We are protectors. There is a difference. Minho Choi, the young counselor who had once opposed the war, now served as the Assembly's first Minister of Reconciliation. His job was perhaps the hardest of all. He had to heal the wounds of war. He had to bring together species who had fought each other. He had to rebuild trust. He traveled to worlds devastated by the conflict. He listened to stories of loss and pain. He worked to establish compensation programs, medical aid, and reconstruction efforts. It was slow work, sometimes discouraging work, but it was necessary work. On one world, a Kelrani elder approached him. Your people fought for us, the elder said. Why, what do you gain from our freedom? We gain allies, Minho replied. We gain friends. We gain the knowledge that we made the galaxy better, and sometimes that is enough. Dr. Hana Yoon faced a different challenge. During the war, she had created weapons of terrible power. Now she had to decide what to do with them. The quantum missiles, the EMP weapons, the nanite swarms. They had won the war, but they were also dangerous. In the wrong hands, they could cause unimaginable destruction. She met with Jiho to discuss the issue. These weapons should not exist, she said. We created them out of necessity. But the war is over. We should destroy them. Jiho considered this. I agree, but not all of them. We keep enough to defend ourselves if another threat emerges. But the rest, yes. We decommission them. We show the galaxy that we meant what we said. We fight only when necessary. The decommissioning ceremonies were broadcast across the galaxy. Humans publicly destroyed their most powerful weapons. It was a gesture of trust. A promise that the new order would be different from the old. General Johan Huang retired from active service. He had liberated dozens of worlds. He had become a legend, but he was tired. The war had taken its toll on him, both physically and mentally. He returned to Earth to a small farm where he could live in peace. On his last day in uniform, young soldiers came to honor him. They asked for his advice. He told them something simple but important. Remember why you fight, not for glory, not for power, but to protect those who cannot protect themselves. If you remember that, you will never become like the enemy we defeated. Captain Narration continued flying, but now as an instructor. She trained the next generation of pilots, passing on everything she had learned. She taught them not just how to fly and fight, but how to think creatively, how to adapt, how to never give up. Her students came from many different species now. They all wanted to learn from the legendary ghostwriter. She treated them all equally, pushing them hard but fairly, because she knew that the future of the galaxy depended on them working together. Commander Doyen Shin and his Ghost Protocol team received honors for their service. But they did not seek the spotlight. They preferred to work in shadows as they always had. They became instructors for the new intelligence service, teaching others how to operate in secret, how to gather information, how to complete impossible missions. 20 years passed. The Galactic Assembly grew strong. New technologies were shared freely among member species. Trade flourished. Art and culture mixed and evolved. The scars of war slowly healed, though they were not forgotten. In the center of the assembly chambers where the council's platforms once stood, a new monument was erected. It showed humans and aliens standing together, united. At the base were engraved words that Jiho had spoken on that first day of war. They left us no choice, but we chose to build something better. Jiho himself, now in his 70s, stood before that monument one day. He was old now. His hair was completely white. His body was tired, but his eyes were still sharp. A young child approached him. Human, no more than 6 years old. "Are you really Ambassador Jiho?" the child asked. "The one from the stories?" "Yes," Jiho said with a gentle smile. "I am. My teacher says you saved the galaxy. Is that true?" Jiho looked up at the monument, at the representation of unity and hope. "No," he said. "I did not save it alone. Millions of people fought. Thousands died. Many species came together. I was just one person who refused to accept injustice. The real heroes are the ones who stood up when it mattered, who fought for what was right, who built something new from the ashes of the old." "Will there be more wars?" the child asked. "Maybe," Jiho admitted. "The galaxy is a big place. There will always be challenges. But I hope that the next generation, your generation, will find better ways to solve problems, ways that do not require so much sacrifice. That is why we built this assembly, to talk, to negotiate, to understand each other, to make war the last choice, not the first." The child nodded, processing this, then ran off to play with other children, both human and alien. Jiho watched them go and felt something he had not felt in a long time. Peace. Not just an absence of war, but genuine peace. The kind that comes from knowing you did the right thing even when it was hard. Years later, when Jiho finally passed away, the entire galaxy mourned. Representatives from hundreds of species attended his funeral.